MacTaggart's Shed Part 2. And you don't have a shotgun, Malky was saying, more gently, as if to a forgetful child. We took it away from you, do you remember? Christy did not answer. Suit yourself, Malky said after a minute. He banged out of the house. As he got into the car, he shouted, I'll be back tomorrow. See if you're more fucking sociable. Christy grinned and punched a fist into his palm. He loved it when he put one over in Malky. Fact was, he had another shotgun up in the loft, and a full cartridge belt, and a whole box of grenades, and an AK-47, and an automatic pistol. He had the lot. Keeping them for when he needed them, because he was just a school janitor, had once been a school janitor. Nobody took him seriously when it came to that kind of stuff. Nobody believed him, and the international guys wouldn't believe him either. Not just him on his own. He needed more witnesses. He needed Gillian. Gillian must have seen the state of Malky's clothes. She must have washed and dried them. Maybe she'd burned them, but she knew she had to know. The only thing anybody'd ever believed him about was the way the bairns behaved at school, the other bairns, in corridors and in the playground. They liked to hear him go on about that. The wee tykes, the dirty wee shites, the thieving, treacherous wee bastards. And they'd laugh and come up with their own stories. Everybody had them. It only took someone to start it off, and you were all the way. Teachers were the same. Our kids and their kids. You could tell them apart just by looking at them, by their names, by the state of their clothes, and the food they ate. Some teachers claimed they could pick them out by smell if they were blindfolded. It was probably true. Christy didn't like them any more than anyone else, and that was just the bairns. The bairns grew into adults, and then the trouble really started. He went to the window and looked across at the field. There were 20 or 30 sheep in it right enough. It might have mistaken them. He might have mistaken them in the half-light of the early morning, but that didn't mean the ghosts weren't there. He'd seen them, crawling away from where the shed had been. MacTaggart's brick shed with its corrugated iron roof where he'd once kept an old tractor and trailer. All gone now. Malky had made MacTaggart pull it down. Take away the shed, he said, and it'll be like nothing happened. You had to have a scene for something to have happened. Now there was just Brussels sprouts getting eaten by sheep. MacTaggart was a nasty piece of work, Christy thought. He used to claim that old Sammy only went to the farm to steal tatties. Sammy went up with his dog and an empty plastic poke and came back with enough tatties to feed his family for a fortnight. So MacTaggart said. Finally, he'd threatened Sammy with the shotgun, told him not to show his dirty face near the farm again. A nicer old fellow than Sammy you couldn't meet, even if he was a minker and a thief. Always passed the time of day, and the scabby dog was friendly too. Not that Christy would have ever had them in the house, because they weren't his people, but that wasn't the point. When the fighting started, the school closed and Christy was laid off. It was only supposed to be temporary till the unrest died down, but it didn't. It got worse. You didn't realise till it started how many of the bastards there were. There had always been a kind of undercurrent that boiled up every so often in pub brawls, graffiti sprayed on shop fronts, vandalised cars. But then something changed. People stopped backing down or holding back, and it all just escalated. Folk had always gone on about the numbers, how they were going to take over if something wasn't done about it. But it wasn't till you saw them with guns, and your own people with guns, that you got a real sense that it might actually happen. The bairns had mixed pretty well on the whole. forbye a bit of name-calling and a few scraps among the boys. But when everybody retreated into their own houses, that was the end of any mixing. Christy lay awake at night and heard pickup trucks roar past that he knew were full of armed young men. He heard shots at 3 a.m, explosions. He looked out into the darkness and saw the houses on the hillside ablaze. In order to sleep, he drank more and more whiskey. But when he slept, he dreamed. In his dreams, he saw the bairns from the school playground, running, screaming down the road. He couldn't tell which bairns they were. They were like the bairns in the old photographs from Vietnam, their naked skin burning with napalm. In order to stop dreaming, he sat up in his armchair and watched television, and drank till he did not so much fall asleep, but fall unconscious. Malky used to drop in at odd times of the day and night then. He'd wake Christy up if he was sleeping. They'd sit together drinking beer, whiskey, wine, whatever Malky had with him. He always had a drink, and he always had money. He talked about the night rides and gun battles in town. He talked about the women they took to the woods and what they did to them. Sometimes they didn't even bother taking them to the woods. Christy listened, and he imagined what it would be like. He'd brought his father's old shotgun down from the attic when the fighting started, and kept it handy just in case, because you never knew when somebody was going to come to your door. And sometimes, when Malky was talking, Christy'd take the gun out of his case and oil it, clean the barrels, and look down them as if he knew what he was aiming at. He'd just been cleaning the gun while Malky was talking, that was all. Like a couple of solid guys going about their business, standing up for what was theirs, for their rights. Christy wasn't stupid. He reckoned there were 2 reasons why Malky came and why he talked. The first was that he needed to tell someone, and he couldn't tell Gillian. The second was that he knew Christy wanted to hear. "I'd take you," said Malky, "but they wouldn't allow it. You kind of have to pass a test. They have to know that you're not going to fuck up." "I wouldn't fuck up," Christy said. "Honest." "I believe you," Malky said, "but not everybody does." Who do you mean? Folk in the village?" "Some. They know what you're like. And then there's the others. The boys running the show. They wouldn't allow it. It was all shite, really. Christy didn't want to go and Malky didn't want to take him. But it was okay talking about it, listening to what Malky was up to. Listening made Christy feel like he could do it if he had to. And it was good drinking with somebody instead of on your own, even if it was just Malky. Then one morning, a morning when there had already been a lot of traffic up and down the road, which had got Christy out of his bed early, Malky rolled up in his coughing car, and with 2 other men in the back seat. Christy came out to meet him. In those days, he still used to step outside. Malky said, "Bastards have done it this time. They've killed young Jock MacTaggart. They're rounding them up now." Somebody had tried to set fire to MacTaggart's place last night, and when the MacTaggarts came out fighting, whoever it was had shot the farmer's son through the head. Whoever it was. They had fled the scene, but MacTaggart, the old bugger, knew fine who they were. So, Malky said, "Are you coming?" "Me?" Christy said. "Aye, come on. I've spoken for you. This is Christy," Malky said to the men in the back seat. "My wife's brother. Mind I said about him?" The men in the back seat didn't really reply. They were just wearing dark glasses and black leather jackets, and were very calm. Malky seemed agitated. "Come on then, Christy," he said. "We're maybe over late as it is." I'm just going to stop here and I'll restart a part 3 video.